Good evening, I'm Mahampawa with the news-making headlines around the world. The National Assembly Speaker meets in Lebanon with the UNHCR representative before visiting Syrian refugee camps. The Council of Ministers affirms in its session today full support to Iraq's sovereignty, stability and territorial integrity. His Highness the Prime Minister sends a letter to the General Prosecutor asking him to investigate what was raised recently during a television interview. And Israeli forces launches a series of raids targeting Palestinian citizens and resistance sites in the Gaza Strip. In our first item, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, His Highness the Amir, Sheikh Sabah al-Ahmed al-Jaber al-Sabah, received at Bayan Palace today credentials of Ambassador Hamid Hamouni, the new Ambassador of the Republic of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania to the State of Kuwait. His Highness also received credentials of Mr. Antonio Carlos Pedro as the new ambassador to the United Republic of Brazil to the State of Kuwait. His Highness also received at Bayan Palace credentials of His Excellency Rahama Hussein al-Zaabi as the Ambassador of the United Arab Emirates to the State of Kuwait. The credentials presentation ceremony was attended by His Excellency the First Deputy Premier and Minister of Foreign Affairs Sheikh Sabah al-Khalid al-Hamad al-Sabah, the Deputy Minister of the Amiri Diwan Affairs Sheikh Ali Jarrah al-Sabah, the Amiri Diwan Under Secretary Ibrahim Muhammad al-Shatti, the Advisor at the Amiri Diwan Muhammad Abdullah Abu al-Hassan, Head of the Amiri Protocols and Ceremonies Sheikh Khalid al-Abdullah Sabah al-Nasir al-Sabah, Deputy Director of His Highness the Emir's Office Ahmed Murshid al-Sulaiman, and the Director of Protocol Department at the Foreign Ministry, Ambassador Dari Ajran al-Ajran, and the Commander of the Amiri Guard, Major General Abdullah Nawaf al-Ahmed al-Sabah. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah al-Ahmed al-Jaber al-Sabah received at Bayan Palace today the Minister of Communication and Minister of State for Municipality Affairs and Chairman of Aviation, Supreme Councillor Isa Ahmed al-Kendari, and members of the Council upon the new formation of the Council. His Highness the Amir also received at Bayan Palace today the Minister of Communication, Minister of State for Municipality Affairs and Chairman of the Board of Directors of Public Authority for Ports, Aisa Ahmed Al-Kandari, and members of the board upon the new formation of the Public Authority of Port Board of Directors. The two meetings were attended by the Deputy Minister of the Amiri Diwan Affairs, Sheikh Jarrah Sabah. His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Ahmed Al-Jaber Sabah, received at Bayan Palace at noon today Dr. Kazim Bahbahani, who was decorated with the British Empire Order in appreciation of his achievement in the field of medicine. His Highness the Emir wished Dr. Bahbahani continued success, commending him on his achievements. The National Assembly Speaker Marzouk Ali Al-Ghanem met in Beirut today with the representative of the UN High Commission of Refugees in Lebanon, Ninette Kelly. The meeting took place before the visit to the Syrian refugees camp in eastern Buqa Valley by the Assembly Speaker and his accompanying delegation. Ms. Kelly praised the great support extended by the State of Kuwait and efforts to the relief of the Syrian refugees since the beginning of the crisis in Syria. She also hailed Kuwait's leading humanitarian role. The Council of Ministers was informed in its weekly session today under the chairmanship of His Highness Sheikh Jabal Mubarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, of the message to His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah from His Excellency President General Michel Sleiman of Lebanon on the end of his term of office. General Sleiman expressed deep thanks and appreciation to His Highness the Emir for the constructive cooperation he received from the State of Kuwait during his term of office, which lasted for 6 years. In his briefing, the Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs and Acting Minister of Justice, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah Al-Mubarak Al-Sabah, said the Cabinet was also briefed by the First Deputy Premier and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sheikh Sabah Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, on the outcome of his recent visit to Greece and Hungary on the 50th anniversary of establishing diplomatic relations with those two countries. The First Deputy Premier and Minister of Foreign Affairs also spoke in the meeting about his participation in the third ministerial meeting between the Arab League and European Union. Sheikh Sabah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah also informed the Council of Ministers of the contents of the joint communiqué issued by the Arab ministerial meetings, which underlined the need to respect Iraq's sovereignty, territorial integrity, political stability and national unity. The Arab foreign ministers also rejected any interference in Iraq's domestic affairs and strongly denounced all acts of terrorism which targets Iraq as well as its unity and security. They all called for national reconciliation among all political groups and parties through engagement in actual and comprehensive dialogue with a view to achieving national unity, rendering Iraq the ability of facing current threats. The Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs and Acting Minister of Justice said the Council of Ministers reaffirmed its determination to support Iraq's security, stability and territorial integrity. He went on to say that in view of the events which took place at the local scene last week and out of the keenness to deal seriously with issues which were raised and have an impact on public funds and the law, the Council of Ministers asked the Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs and Acting Minister of Justice, in coordination with the Legal Opinion and Legislation Directorate, to submit a notification to the General Prosecutor asking him to investigate what was reported in the rally which took place last Tuesday and to take the necessary legal measures against any culprit in any crime. The Cabinet also discussed the political issues in light of the received reports regarding Arab and international developments. The Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs and Acting Minister of Justice, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah Al-Mubarak Al-Sabah, announced that His Highness Sheikh Jabal Mubarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, sent a letter to the General Prosecutor asking him to investigate and examine the suspicions raised during a TV show on a local satellite channel. Kuwait Municipality Council held its general every other Monday session discussing various topics on the agenda with almost all members in attendance for the session. The 3-hour session raised and approved several issues such as those related to the environment, requests of companies for more lands to use commercially and suggestions from members of the council. Here is more on the session in this report with Salim Al-Kandari.
Kuwait Municipality Council in its general session today discussed various issues and suggestions made by various members of the council and other institutions.
Today we had the main session, which is bi-monthly session. Every 2 weeks you have a session, and we discussed several issues that were delivered from different companies, governments, and other actually identities that have some work with the municipality that they need approval. It's very important for the municipal council to approve those aspects before the final approval. So in the main session usually we discuss it and then we vote on the final decision on those aspects. So today actually there were different matters that we discussed regarding the applications for or requests for some mosques in different locations of Kuwait, and usually the municipality, they provide us with their technical opinion. Based on their opinion, we decide on the final decision. So after discussion, there were approval for different mosques in different locations of Kuwait, and also there were requests for naming some streets in Kuwait. At the same time, different committees in the municipal council, actually they provided us with the subjects that they discussed previously. So the idea here, we have different committees within the municipal council that are related to the 6 different governorates in Kuwait, and also there are some technical committees that are related to the municipal council works. That's why those committees, they meet in advance, and then the final decisions are discussed in addition to recommendations and the outcomes of those meetings.
The Municipal Council is one of the most important posts to achieve public policies for the municipality. It has a clear role in the formulation of policies and plans and reports on all projects in relation to the functions and activities of the municipality in regards to urban environment, health, and other related issues. From the Kuwait Municipality Council, this is Salim Kandiri reporting for the English News.
NATO Secretary General Andrei Fogh Rasmussen today called for immediate release of Turkish hostages being held in Iraq, condemning a recent militant attack on the Turkish consulate in Mosul, where hostages were taken. The Al-Qaeda-inspired group known as ISIL took control of much of Mosul, Iraq's second largest city. As ISIL spreads across the country, world powers are collaborating to find a solution to the crisis. Reporter Badriya Saleh has more on the recent situation.
As the Iraqi government is struggling to fight insurgency, the state of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, militants continues its violent attacks across the country, vowing to take the battle to the capital of Baghdad. Washington is considering direct talks with Iran on the security situation in Iraq. The move comes as U.S. President Barack Obama weighs options on how to help the local government with this crisis. Discussions with Tehran could take place as early as this week. The 2 countries are also due to hold the latest rounds of talks on Iran's nuclear program in Vienna soon. Kurdistan's prime minister also arrived in Iran today to hold talks with Iranian officials over the latest developments in the grief-stricken country. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said he will consider cooperation if the U.S. takes action in Iraq. Meanwhile, UK Foreign Secretary William Hague insists that his country will not intervene militarily to help Iraq fight insurgents. Hague acknowledged that the government would find it difficult to get Parliament to agree to any military action after it rejected airstrikes in Syria last year. In other developments, government forces are reported to be building up in the city of Samarra, north of Baghdad, ready for a counter-offensive on Tikrit. Iraqi army officials scored successes against the militants in several areas, killing 279 of them. However, the figure could not be independently verified.
The United States and Iran start a new round of negotiations this week over the future of Iran's nuclear program. An interim 6-month agreement reached between Iran and the P5+1 nations, the US and the 5 other permanent members of the UN Security Council, comes to an end July the 20th. Under the deal, Iran cuts back on parts of its nuclear program while the 6 nations reduce economic sanctions. The talks will be held in Vienna, with Deputy Secretary of State William Burns joining the US team and Iranian Foreign Minister Zarif leading the Iranian delegation. Amid rapidly rising tensions in the West Bank, Gaza is under several Israeli airstrikes, which led to the injury of 2 people and the death of 2 others so far. Things are expected to deteriorate in the coming days, with Israel tightening its grip on the Palestinians in search for the 3 Israeli settlers kidnapped Thursday. More in this report with Majd al-Wahidi from Gaza.
Israeli warplanes carried out a series of intensive airstrikes on various military targets in southern, central and northern Gaza Strip, injuring 2 Palestinians. Meanwhile, a 7-year-old child died of his wounds sustained late this week when an Israeli airstrike killed a Palestinian civilian claimed by Israel as a militant from international jihad. The boy who lost his life was with his targeted uncle when the airstrike hit.
What about the blood of our kid? Israelis targeted one, but why they killed an innocent child in cold blood? Israel should be under trial now, but there is no justice in this world. The Zionists killed the all. Nobody wants to help us.
Tensions are growing high between Israel and the Palestinians, as Israel officially announced that 3 Israelis were kidnapped in the West Bank Thursday. As expected, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel holds President Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority responsible for the safety of these settlers.
I think after the kidnapping of 3 Israeli settlers in Hebron in the West Bank, I do believe that Israel will accelerate its military activities against Hamas and against Gaza. Whether the coming days, I do believe that we will be witness of such acceleration.
Hamas in Gaza says the recent airstrikes reflect the Israeli confusion regarding the kidnapping operation. Amid accusations and fears, the reality seems full of serious challenges for all Palestinians. Analysts say that the disappearance of 3 Israeli settlers from the West Bank could be a golden opportunity used by Israel to hamper Palestinians' new government, turning a blind eye to their daily atrocities and violations committed against detainees and civilians. Majd al-Wahidi, Kuwait TV, Gaza.
Pakistani jets pounded targets in the country's northwest today as the military waged an offensive against militant safe havens that killed 37 fighters, while insurgents fought back with a roadside bomb that killed 6 soldiers, the first army casualties of the operation. The airstrikes are part of a long-awaited operation against foreign and local militants in North Waziristan, a tribal region near the Afghan border that is used by insurgents to attack the rest of Pakistan. The airstrikes targeted 6 hideouts in the Shawal area near the border with South Waziristan, killing 27 militants. The military said in a statement that 6 troops died and 3 were wounded by the roadside bomb, as the Pakistani Taliban warned that there was more violence to come. Ukraine's prime minister said today that Russia's cutting of gas supplies to Ukraine was part of a prepared plan that started with the annexation of Crimea. The decision came as a payment deadline passed and negotiators failed to reach a deal on gas prices and unpaid bills amid continued fighting in eastern Ukraine. Gazprom tolerated late payments, but now says Ukraine owes a total of $4.458 billion for gas from last year and this year. They announced today that they are suing Ukraine's state energy company Naftogaz in an international court for the $4.5 billion. Naftogaz said it also filed a suit against Gazprom, seeking a fair and market-based price for gas, as well as repayment of $6 billion for what it said were overpayments for gas from 2010. Juan Manuel Santos won re-election in Colombia's most dramatic presidential contest in years. With almost all the votes counted electronically, results were announced 1 hour after polls closed. Mr. Santos won nearly 51% of votes and saw off his right-wing challenger, Oscar Ivan Zuluaga, who had 45%. Mr. Santos will be inaugurated in August for a new 4-year term. Mr. Zuluaga, who had won the first round of voting in May by a narrow margin, accepted defeat in a speech to supporters in his headquarters. Nearly 48% of the 33 million Colombians registered to vote took part in the elections. And in world sport news, the third day of the World Cup Mondial saw Switzerland defeat Ecuador 2-1 in the capital, Brasilia. France headed off against Honduras to end with a 3-0 win, and Argentina beat Bosnia-Herzegovina 2-1. Today, Germany is set to play off against Portugal first, followed by Iran versus Nigeria and Ghana versus the US. And moving on to the local financial news, where Kuwait's stock exchange indices were mixed at the end of today's session. The price index retreated by 0.47% to lose around 33.47% points, actually, to close at almost 7,109 points. The weight index shed 0.17% to close at 481.4 points, while the KSX 15 added 0.14% to register at 1,175 points. Trades altogether came to 3,160 transactions worth about 15 million Kuwaiti dinars, with around 104 million shares changing hands. And in our final item tonight, Kuwaiti Writers Association concluded its cultural season for the year 2013-2014 at a ceremony at its headquarters in Adeliya area, with the attendance of a rally of writers and observers from Kuwait's cultural movement. The association will now take a short break as it now prepares for their next regular season, which begins in September. However, it will not be entirely absent from the local cultural scene. Sarah Faris Group has more in this report.
Kuwait Writers Association hosted a ceremony to mark the end of its cultural season for the year 2013-2014, honoring the individuals and agencies that participated in their cultural activities and marking the anniversary of their founding half a century ago.
A few weeks ago, we were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the establishment of Kuwait Writers Association, and today we are celebrating the end of the season, of the cultural season. I really hope everybody enjoy being here. It's a good chance to show the people and the media what we have achieved this year, how many people got the advantage of being members in the Kuwait Writers Association, and how many people enjoyed the activities that Kuwait Writers Association provide. And I hope we can do the same next year.
The association also expressed gratitude to everyone who has been credited to the success of the season, which featured several literary activities, including cultural lectures, poetry evenings, literary courses, new publications and book fairs.
On behalf of the chairman of this society, I'm very glad to talk in this occasion. We have 50 years now since this club established, and we take care of all the movement, literature, and the new books, and everything is new according to culture of the society. There now we are making this festival for 50 years old since this society has established, and I would like to send all regards to the audience of Kuwait TV, and I'm also very glad to talk to them on this occasion. And at the end of this talk, I hope we will have a very great occasions to keep ourselves in front of many things in Kuwait society and Kuwait state.
However, this is not the last we will see of the association till September, as the Guild is active throughout the summer and it organizes its annual and prominent international book fair during the holy Muslim fasting month of Ramadan. Kuwait Writers Association has concluded its 2013-2014 cultural season with this elegant and sentimental ceremony, and it truly has been a great year for the association, as only a month ago it marked the 50th Golden Jubilee anniversary of its establishment. From Kuwait Writers Association, this is Sarah Glubb reporting for English News.
For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. Well, with that, we conclude our news bulletin. Thank you for joining us. Have a pleasant time. I'm Maham Tawa. Before we go, we remind you once again of our main top stories. Have a pleasant time and good night. The National Assembly Speaker meets in Lebanon with the UNHCR representative before visiting Syrian refugee camps. The Council of Ministers affirms in its session today full support to Iraq's sovereignty, stability and territorial integrity. His Highness the Prime Minister sends a letter to the General Prosecutor asking him to investigate what was raised recently during a television interview. And Israeli forces launches a series of raids targeting Palestinian citizens and resistance sites in the Gaza Strip.